Alrighty, folks, welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at WikiDeck, and it has been a while since I have looked at this project. This is as you can see right there, an NFT blockchain and trading card game inspired by Wikipedia. So basically it's a blockchain written in Python, and when you mine a block, the reward for that block is a trading card, which contains a Wikipedia page, or actually just a integer reference to a Wikipedia page that you can use with the Wikipedia API to pull a bunch of interesting information about that page, and which I will be hoping in the future to use to make all kinds of interesting games out of this blockchain thing. But for now, we have to get things basically working, and they already are, which is a great way to start. And what I mean by that is that the actual WikiDeck application that you see here, this is hosted on my Git instance, git.eom.dev/wikideck, and this repository has had a good amount of work already done on it. The application already works. I have tested it at some point in the past, so we're going to have to retest it tonight to make sure that the past and the present cohere, but yeah, so the application is working, and I've had some assistance from Deespalatro, and I think someone else also made some contributions. Let's take a look at the Git history here so that we can know that for sure. How do we do that? I've not done this before, so there, commits. That's what I'm looking for. I was looking for the word history. Nope, so me and Deespalatro built the client application. So what I want to do here tonight on this stream is actually run the Docker containers that contain the WikiDeck application, and then I want to Market News at Mastodon.social. You're very reliable with the stream sharing. I think it's an automation, but I'll thank you for it anyway, because I appreciate the automation. It reminds me that I need to do that myself. So easy. Beautiful. Look at that face. Anyway, so, yeah, so WikiDeck is working. I'm going to run the Docker containers here locally and confirm that they are working, and I will basically play around with the client and basically demonstrate how it works. And that will be useful because the point of this stream is basically to get this running on my network so that you, dear viewer, can try it out for yourself. I'm hoping that people will download the repository, run the client, and try to generate some cards for themselves and maybe try to trade them with some other people. The trading part especially will probably be easy to organize in the matrix chats that we have, which you can find in links throughout my platform. So yes, let's just jump right into it. Let's see if we can run this Docker container. We've got a Docker file right here. I don't think I have on actual Docker Hub. No. Okay, good. That makes it easier. I was wondering if I had built this and published it to Docker Hub previously, but I have not. So I will need to build this from scratch. And I think if we just look at our Docker file. Okay, it does pull from Docker Hub. So there's a dependency here of httpd mod whisky, or WSG, I don't know how that's pronounced, but that's for Python applications. If you want to run Flask or Django in a production environment, you can't use the built-in web server that those, what are those called? Web frameworks come with. Those are just testing servers, and you need to embed it into something like Apache HTTPD or Nginx in order to actually use it in a production environment. HTTPD is Apache HTTPD, and mod whisky is what allows Apache HTTPD to use Python. And so by combining Apache HTTPD with mod whisky, we can run our Flask or Django app in a production environment. And in order to streamline that process, I have created this Docker container, ericomean/httpd mod whisky, and basically all you have to do is install any dependencies, copy your Python application to user local Apache 2 htdocs, and run the pip install for any of your application requirements, and then this Docker container should be running your Flask or Django application with just that. So this Docker file here in the WikiDeck repository uses that one that I just described. And so all I think I need to do is docker build dash t. Let me see, actually, I'm using tmux, so I can split my terminal in half like that. I'm not going to tell you the commands because it'd be nice if they like showed up on the screen, like maybe like right around here. If I did a little overlay to show you the key commands I was using, that'd be kind of a nice addition to this stream. But that might be cool. Anyway, I'm distracted. I'm going to SSH into my Inspiron 3670, which is my old desktop computer, and it has our old ZSH interface. Ew. Actually, it's not that bad. But anyway, what I want to do here is look for... I don't have any Docker build commands in my history. No, that's a shame. Well, I guess we'll have to learn how to do this all over again. Let's call it... Well, let's just call it WikiDeck. Latest. I don't remember. Let's use a chat bot. Duck.ai is the one that I like to use. It just upstreams to something else. In this case, we're going to upstream to... I like Mixtral. No. Mixtral Small. That's not... Well, sure. Let's use Mixtral Small. I like Mixtral. It's an open source model. And you can't really see it behind my head, so I'll just throw it onto the other side of the screen here. Excuse me. So... I had a feeling it was... Whoa. That's... What you doing here, computer? That's what you should do. Okay, sorry about that. I'm using on... So my operating system here is Debian, and I'm using the GNOME desktop environment. And I've installed a add-on called GNOME Tiling Shell. And it allows me to set the windows up in predefined configurations. At the moment, you're seeing it split in half, which is not particularly interesting, but you can do things like small windows on the sides and things like that, and it's a fun way to use the... Actually, it's not just fun, it's very efficient. But anyway... I had a feeling we had this .t. We're going to call this... What do I want to call it? I think it should be... Ericomian / WikiDeck latest. I think the Ericomian is... I'm just putting that in there so that I can do a Docker push later. And it should be easier, but... Just let it do what it does. Currently building our container. And then we're just going to run it, and then we're going to run the client. And I'm going to do very little looking at the code here. Half because I generally just don't enjoy looking at code. Believe it or not, reading code, I find it very painful. And I would much rather just write it over. But anyway, that looks good. Looks like it's running. I'll split my screen again. Whoa. Did it do that because I split the screen? Sometimes that happens. So I need to create a Python virtual environment. So, okay, this is a good time for me to point out that, as I said, I am hoping to recruit some help from my audience in experimenting with this application and testing it out. And this is specifically what I would like for you to do. If you would please clone the WikiDeck repository, and then I'm going to be doing this on Linux. I assume most of you are going to be on Windows, and so you'll have to do a little bit of Googling if you are, because I don't know how to do this on Windows. But on Linux or Mac OS, it should be basically the same. You will use your git clone, and you will use this address right here. You'll want to make sure you use the HTTPS instead of the SSH. Only I can use the SSH unless you have created an account on my Git instance and have added SSH keys, which you are welcome to do. So, I digress. Clone the repository, and then you'll need to create a Python virtual environment to use, which is basically a separate installation of Python on your computer that allows you to pip install a bunch of applications without it affecting your overall system. So you can pip install whatever libraries you want for Python. You can even tag specific versions of them. And then for a separate project over here, you can specify a whole other list of dependencies that conflict with that first one and have different versions and all of that. And using Python virtual environments, you can have a separate Python installation for each of those projects, and that makes things nice and easy. Do I have one already? I should not. And the reason that I should not is that if we look at I'm going to use Vim instead, our git ignore, which is a file that you can put in your Git repository to tell Git to not save certain files in the repository. I have this venv/star included in the git ignore file, which means don't include anything from a virtual environment. So I can use this command, python 3-m venv to create a virtual environment in a folder called venv. So that is a little bit of a confusing syntax, but and then I'm going to use source venv/bin/activate. And now if I say which python 3, it should say home Eric desktop wikideck venv bin python 3. So we know that my virtual environment is now active, and that's the version of Python I'm now using. I can even do which pip 3, and we can see it's also using my virtual environment of pip. So I can now pip 3 install -r requirements.txt. Our requirements.txt file contains a list of Python libraries that need to be installed in order to run this. And actually, all of these aren't technically necessary to run the client, but we're not going to separate our server and client dependencies just yet. That might be a good idea in the future. Maybe we can open an issue. Ooh-wee. What happened here? Oh. Okay. It's okay. Everything's fine. So this error is saying that MariaDB needs to be installed locally. I need to have the MariaDB. I thought it was the client that I needed to have installed, and I believe I do have the MariaDB client installed. What does this say more specifically? Reading. Config. I have not configured MariaDB. So that would be a problem if we were actually trying to run the server, but we're not trying to run the server. So I'm actually going to go ahead and retract what I just said a moment ago, and we are going to create a client and let's see. Let's give it .env. Wikipedia. Does it need cryptography? I think it does for the client. We should not need Flask, and we should not need MariaDB. Those are for the server, so we can create that instead. and we can pip3 install our client requirements.txt. That way you don't need to install MariaDB in order to try this out like I have asked you to. That shouldn't be necessary. And while it went off, I didn't have time to take a sip. I'm going to do it anyway. Forgive me. It's important to stay hydrated. You know, this is my instrument. Okie dokie. So, I don't remember how the client works. I didn't make it, so that doesn't totally surprise me. Let's take a look at our CLI.py. Now there were two. There's WikiDeck CLI.py and there's CLI.py. I'm not sure why they were separated into two files, but I think CLI.py is the main one. Yeah, okay. So, I have my virtual environment activated. I have the application running up here. This is just a test environment. And so the command that I need to run is python 3 cli.py, and then what arguments do I need to pass? I don't think I need to pass any. I think I just run it. Yeah, I don't see any like arg parse or anything. I think I saw that in the WikiDeck cli.py. Maybe there were two versions that Deus Balatro made. That's kind of, maybe I remember that, but let's just go for it. We are going to create an RSA key pair. So on this blockchain, a user account is just an RSA key pair, and through the protocol, your key will be embedded into blocks as they are mined and transactions as they are done. So it's important that you have an RSA key pair and that you keep it. And make sure you keep the private key private, of course. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and create one for our testing purposes. Okay, so I've created one, and now I need to press 2 in order to save it. That's a little private key.pem. And now I need to press 4 in order to save the public key separately. Don't worry, this is a very early version. I think I'll create an issue to say that the client interface could be streamlined in some ways. But anyway, so I type 1, 2, and then 4 to create my key pair and then save the private and public key separately. I'm not going to load one. Well, actually, we have a bit of a problem because I need to be able to specify the WikiDeck URL, and actually it's specified as localhost right here. In order for that to work, I'm going to need to restart our server up here with a command for -p to send port 8080 of localhost to port 80 of the container for WikiDeck. And that should match up with the default value that is set here. Crap. Does it tell me how to open a port? Let's one thing that's fun to do, and I think very good to do when you're talking to AI chatbots, is to try to phrase your questions as stupidly as you possibly can. I think it just helps people. But oh, see, it says it right there. Let's ask it anyway. How do done ports forward? How do done ports? Dude, that's not exactly what I meant. But anyway, we see it here. But you just put it first. Okay, I'm going to cancel that and clear it so it looks a little bit prettier on the screen. And we are now going to mine a block. So this should take a bit of time. depending on what our default settings are for the server. I don't quite remember. And when it's done, I should have one card in my deck. And so, yeah, what I've just outlined here is what I'm hoping to get some help with testing on from all of you. What I would like you to do is clone the repository, set up that Python virtual environment like I just showed, run this client application, create an RSA key pair, save the public and private key, and then, oh, hello there. Upbeat Austin, welcome to the chat. I was just requesting some assistance from the audience, so it's very convenient that you have joined at this precise moment, but don't worry about it. You don't have to do it right now. It's fine. But yeah, so I'm testing out an application that I have written with some help from a user named Deus Balatro called WikiDeck, which is a NFT-style blockchain. The way it works is that you are going to mine a block on this blockchain, and the reward for doing so is going to be an NFT of a Wikipedia page. And those are intended to be trading cards in a trading card game. And actually, the NFT just contains a numeric value that represents the Wikipedia page, and that numeric value comes from the Wikipedia API. So you can actually use that value to get a ton of interesting data about the page, and I'm hoping to use that to make interesting games out of this blockchain. What I have done here is I have the server running up top locally through Docker, and I'm just trying to make sure everything is working the way I remember it. Down here, I have the client that Deus Balatro wrote, and I have created an RSA key pair. I then saved my private key. I saved my public key. And now I am mining a block, and it is just kind of hanging out here for a while, not doing anything, and that means that it's thinking. So this seems like a good sign. We'll just give it a few moments here while it does that. And once we see that it mines the block, I'll probably mine a few more, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to generate a transaction. I think I might have to generate another key pair and do something with that, but we'll see. Let's just give it a moment here. Once we confirm that this is working, I'm going to go over to this other repository, Ansible role WikiDeck, and this is going to use the Docker container running here along with a MariaDB Docker container to actually deploy this application into my Kubernetes cluster. Once I do that, it should be publicly accessible to anybody watching the stream or the recording, and I'm hoping people will try it out and try and generate some cards, try and send them to each other. We'll see how it works. We're going to consider this a beta version, so please don't get attached to any cards that you generate at this time. We may reset things, and we may do that a few times. So early testing. It's taken a long time here, hey? What are the defaults? Yeah, Upbeat Austin. Thanks for joining. There's actually a bunch of folders in here that were like me thinking about how I wanted to organize this and didn't actually. So like this status checker, I don't think that has anything. Peer handler. Yeah, this is thinking ahead, but the mine, I think, is the only thing that is complete at this point. And let's see. Oh, okay. Interesting. Bit of a problem here. No wonder it's taking so long. Just cancel out of that. So my difficulty requirement, I need to set it to something other than 0. Otherwise, I'll never succeed. Basically, Yeah. I think oddly when you it seems counterintuitive because the lower the difficulty, the easier it should be. It just seems like when you get to 0, it becomes almost impossible. Let's take a look at the function that we are using. I think it's seeing if the hash is less than 2 to the 256 minus the difficulty. So that's written like this. And so if your difficulty is 0, so let me actually, x, which is the generated hash, has to be less than or equal to, I think. We can find out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, basically this is the formula that's used to mine the blockchain. And so if our difficulty is 0, then our generated hash has to be basically 2 to the 256 power. So the highest possible hash value, which is going to be in hexadecimal. In SHA-256, it's going to be 256 Fs or something like that. Is it 256 exactly? I think so. I don't recall. No, I don't think hash sizes in SHA are exactly 256 or 512 characters long. So don't count how many specific, but it would be a bunch of Fs. It would be all Fs. So anyway, because it's hexadecimal and F is the largest hexadecimal symbol. Anyway, yeah, so basically I need to start the server again. And I need to give it an environment variable. That's fine. And let's ask it as dumbly as we can. I'll give env var 2 dash e. Yep. And the env var that we need to set. Let's just set it to 1. That should be as easy as we can do. Thinking back, that actually, the formula stuff, it doesn't make sense because it would have to be less than a bunch of Fs, and pretty much everything is going to be less than a bunch of Fs in your hash. So I don't know why it's taking so long. We should definitely go back and look at that. Let's just do that while I'm thinking about it. So while our block hash is greater than 2 to the 256 minus difficulty. So if difficulty is 0, while it is greater than I don't quite understand why turning that to 0 makes it an infinite loop. That seems very counterintuitive. It feels like well, I'm not actually sure. That seems like pretty confident that my understanding of that is actually correct, but that's neither here nor there. So let's just run our client again. And let's... Oh, I... We can test out the loading key pair. And it loaded just well. Let's try and mine another block. And if you'll excuse me for a moment, I maintain that I seem to be allergic to streaming because it makes my nose itch. Excuse me. Taking its time there. That's a bit curious. Let's see. We should probably test out our... Aha. Ah. Hmm. Hmm. What's going on here? Is the port incorrect on the... Excellent. I wrote no documentation. That makes it easy. Pretty sure it's listening on port 80 by default. Did I need to go to a endpoint? Yeah, it's a blueprint. So the actual Flask app is probably loading it in with a prefix. No? No prefix? Sure about that? Yeah. Okay. I think it's trying to use IPv6 here. That's why it's not working. Nope. This is why we're testing it. At least my confusion about that difficulty being 0 has been answered. Let's do this. No. Hmm. This might actually be on GitHub. Nope, right here. Perfect. Yeah, this is saying 8080 as well. Um, Maybe I only ever ran it locally. That's a very strange result. I wonder if I close the server. This one aborted. Now this one's resetting. What's going on here? This is a bit strange. Let's just run normal Apache HTTPD. That works. Um, oh. Database. Database. I think I need to have a database running. I need to have MariaDB running, don't I? That's a bit silly of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that was my fault. Okay. Um, let's clear a few things. Okay. Yeah. Simple fix, simple fix. So here we are still going to run the web app, but down here, we're going to just run MariaDB. Is that what they want? Whoa. Okay. So, wonder if that's the problem. I need to name it MariaDB specifically. I'm just running all kinds of crazy stuff there. Dang it. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Nothing. Guess that's not the problem. Is there a... Hmm. Let's think. So, I'm really not sure why it is hanging and not responding. Um, and I don't exactly know what to do to test it here at this point. So let me... Guessing what the issue is that Apache HTTPD is not finding the WSGI app and loading things correctly, which is kind of a problem. Copy WSGIapp.py to user local Apache htdocs. It's slightly different. Yeah, it specifies the file name here, and this is the Apache Docker HTTPD mod WSGI original Docker file, and then this Docker file, which builds on top of it. It just copies the whole thing into user local Apache 2 htdocs. So I think we need to add a line. Add that there. Um, whoops. rebuild the container with that new copy command. I have a good feeling about that. And now we're going to run it. Also run MariaDB. Nothing. Soccer. Hmm. Okay, well, it's actually copied over like my public key and stuff here, so we need to get rid of that. That's a problem. I should just add .pem to the git ignore. Let me do that while I'm thinking about it. Hmm. Hmm. Well, my hope is that I would be able to get this deployed tonight, but if it's not running in Docker, then I can't run Docker in Kubernetes. So let me think. Stretch, which helps with things. Know that. Hmm. And it's not really telling me anything useful either. Doesn't really print anything that would be useful to me. Simple change I can make to test. Is that the problem? Is it that? Let me check. I don't think it is. Maybe I need to add something or subtract something from this. Um, bunch of them. I think a lot of those are mine. Yeah, a bunch of those are exited. Let's take all of the exited ones. Let's take that and pipe that into cut-d. Space delimiter. We want the first field. And each in previous command. There we go. I want to get rid of this. Okay, cool. Let's, because I changed something. What did I change? Okay. I don't think this is necessary, actually, on second thought, because this directory becomes htdocs. It contains whiskyapp.py already. Need to sneeze, excuse me. Almost didn't make it with the mute there. That's okay. PyCache. Why is it giving me PyCache? Okay. Build it one more time. Mod Whiskey is loaded. It works. Why is that? That's not what it should. Is that cached? I think that was cached. Fool me. Okay. What's to do? What's to do? Try a couple more. So, time to start thinking of backup plans. Thinking that if I can't get this working tonight, what I'm going to do is I'll create an issue on Git to reflect that the Docker container is not working and to investigate why. And I'm not sure if that actually, I'm pretty confident that my original ModWiz is working. We can double check that actually. Yeah, so that's fine. Huh? That one's working. I need to do something simple here. Okay, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to take a look at this elsewhere. So, what I am going to do, create an issue. Okay, created this issue. So, where is this video going to live? Milestone. Oh, lovely. Version 1.0.0. Yeah, I think I'll put it right here in the milestone itself. So the goal for this milestone is going to be to implement any fixes for issues that we report once we test it. So first I have to get this up and running, then the request for testing and experimentation from you will be necessary, and once we have tested it and found issues and have implemented a bunch of things to improve it, that's going to be our version 1. So this video will live here in this description somewhere. You can stay tuned for that. Next step for me is going to be solving that issue of this Docker container. I might do it not on a live stream. I might do it in Matrix, actually. If we pull that up and show it to you. This was an idea of a different Matrix user, not myself. I've had similar ideas to this, but this is Kritomos. Take a look at this. It's small, but Kritomos is using our Matrix chat as a devlog. So they, in this case, are talking about, let's see if I can. Yeah, so here we can see they're creating threads to document what they're doing on their projects. And it's kind of like a real-time log of, I'm working on this now. I don't understand this. Oh, here was the answer to that. Now I'm working on this. And so it's not so much a conversation so much as a log of thoughts, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. And I think I said I was going to use it, but I didn't really do too much. So maybe this is a good opportunity for me to try that out. I might try putting stuff in there. We will see. Oh, good. Now I don't remember what the zoom was. I'll have to fix that later. It's not important right now. So, okay. So I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to upload the video right here into the description of our version 1.0.0 milestone on WikiDeck here. And in the near future, I will be asking for some help with testing this. So please do that when I ask. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time. I think I was trying to say that I was going to... Nah, never mind. We're good. We're good. I'll see you later. Toodles.